Man, I love it when I hear the great Gary Muhammad on the guitar. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Welcome back to another edition of Nothing But the Truth with
Brother Jamil
and Sister Tisha. We are back for more of the same, the good stuff. Yeah. We try to bring you the very best every week, and this week is no exception. In fact, it may be more intensified goodness when you stick right there where you are. Everybody knows the rules and the game and how we do it. Sister Tisha is going to tell you, but it's my honor to present to you the world's greatest and most beautiful co-host, the great Sister Tisha Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome to another exciting episode of Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil and Sister Tisha. We are so grateful that you took the time to come and join us again. We have an exciting show for you. I'm so glad you're here. But I want you to please go and tell a friend to join on too, because they don't want to miss this. And also, we need your help in helping to build our platform. We ask that you go over to our YouTube page, like, share, and subscribe, and then go over to our Facebook page and do the same. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm not going to take too much time today because like I said, we have an action-packed show. I'm going to get right into it. Hold on, friends.
Action-packed is a good word for it. We are grateful for tonight's gathering. Happy that you all were able to join us. And we've got a guest. Oh, you already knew who it is. Brother William is here. Great. Good to see you, Brother William, from the great Oakland, California. We'll be joined by folks, and he's excited to hear from Sister ZaZa. I'm sure you are, my dear brother, as we are too. But our guest tonight, as you may have heard from the publicity materials and seen in social media, is one of the most active and interactive scholars produced by Black America. She is our sister and who has become really an expert on subject matter concerning the lives, spirits, souls, and futures of our people. She is the author of various different books. I have this one with me in my library from back in 10 years ago when this one came out, Black Matters, Parts 1 and 2. But you'll hear more about the other books that she's written tonight. But she is an author. She's a researcher. She's a commentator. She is a spiritual liaison because in her understanding, and I'll let you develop that tonight when you meet her, in her understanding, she's been able to see the best in everything. Just like a bee can go around and get a little bit of nectar off all the flowers, take it back to the hive and make some honey that's really good for you. That's what Sister does with her scholarship. So it's our privilege and pleasure to present her to you tonight at the top of the hour. Join me in welcoming our sister and our friend, Sister ZaZa Ali. She's with us tonight. There she is. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum salam, King. Wa alaikum salam, Queen. Just very good for me to be here with you both. I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Yes. Great. We're going to get right into it as we welcome a few folks in from the chat, of course, but we want to get right into the discussion. Yes, Sister Katina's here. She's excited. We know you are, sis, and we know that you got plenty to say. There's our brother Jerry from Maryland. Good to see you, brother Jerry. Wa alaikum salam. Reem the Dream is on with us tonight. What is life without a dream? Yeah. Okay. So we want to make sure we have all of the gathered family, if you will, in place and in location. Sis, welcome to the program. First question I've got to ask tonight. Based on, and of course, we've been friends and colleagues in this movement for the freedom, justice, and equality of our people for years, almost 20 years now. I think I met you when I was 2 years old because I'm 22 now, but I wanted to. But I wanted to just thank you and congratulate you on your consistency in this work and ask one question, if I could. What is it? Because we build this show under what you need to know, audience, what you need to know. What are the things that come to your mind that families and individuals trying to make it as conscious Black people, what do we need to know in 2026 that's urgent and pressing for us?
Well, that's a big question. I could say a lot of things, but I think the most important things, before I say that, I want to commend you both on the professionalism of the way that you put the show together. And it's very crisp, it's very clean, and I'm very grateful for that. I think for families, you know, if we could look at the food, right? My scientific intervention in our affairs, my first book, I was talking about genetically modified food.
Yes.
I was talking about gender bending chemicals. I was talking about the soy milk and the endocrine disruptors. I was talking about eating to live, as we know from the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, which are so much more important and valuable in this timeline. So I think as parents, being very mindful of what you're putting into your child's body and being way more focused on cooking home cooked meals opposed to fast food. And even some of the high quality restaurants now are cooking meat that comes from printers. It sounds absurd, but it's a real thing now.
That comes from what you said?
Wow.
That comes from meat that comes
printers, from lab-made meat.
Laboratory created meat.
Laboratory created meat. Yes. Me saying it comes from printers is simplifying a much more complex problem. But yes, we have meat now on the shelves as well as in restaurants that is lab grown meat that is not from animals. Okay. We have oranges and lemons that don't have seeds, right? And the seed is, so if you're, you know, what is that doing to your ability to reproduce yourself, which is the overall goal? I think the social media, the amount of time that our children and the access our children have access to social media is very dangerous, let alone grown-ups, let alone grown people. So I think limiting online content and online access should be a focus right now. The music is destroying the minds of our young people. I had a situation recently where I was driving past an elementary school and I saw a little Black girl doing some very sexual dance movements. So much so that it stopped me in my tracks, and I pulled my car over and just observed this little girl for a minute, and it broke my heart to see 6-7-year-old young girl gyrating, and you know, it was very uncomfortable for me to watch that. So, you know, protecting our children mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically is critical right now. I just shared in my stories, they have every week they have a science club gathering for children in New York. And they all come together and practice different science experiments. And I'm like, well, for one, I want to do an adult version. I'd like to be a part of an adult version, but mathematics and science are two places that we know that our children are very much underserved, right? And in the world that we're living in, not just the technology aspect of it, but the frequency aspect of it. A lot of this stuff is relative to science and to mathematics. And so I think, you know, emphasizing those things, especially for girls now, which is one of the reasons why I wrote Ancient People. 75% of our history books, textbooks, are written by men, and then majority of those are white men. And so I was like, oh, that made me even more inclined to write a history textbook, right? We're not available in a lot of the academic fields where we need a strong feminine perspective. I think that fasting right now is critical, right? And we talked about the food element, and that's one part of it, but then also the spiritual and mental and emotional benefits of fasting, right? Discipline. We have to be disciplined in whatever, you know, your work, obviously, taking care of yourself, obviously, the way you eat, obviously, right? How much access to social media, obviously, the type of music you're listening to, obviously, right? I think we all should have a strong point where we're very disciplined, right? My fasting, I'm on point with my fasting. Right. I'm very disciplined in that regard. The way that I eating one meal a day, which I've been doing for 25 years now, very disciplined in that regard. Right. So all of us right now, if we asked, should have a strong point where we can say, yep, I might fall short here, I might fall short there, but on this subject right here, I'm on point. You know, I think that having a strong mind right now is critical, especially for the sisters. I cannot tell you how many women that I'm engaging with now on social media that are parroting a lot of silly, ignorant things that don't really make sense, even in terms of their own well-being. And so as girls and as young women, we need to be able to see when the crowd is going, when everybody's going that direction, and stop and pause for a second and be like, okay, is this going to work out for me? Right. So my rule of thumb is anytime I see everybody going in that direction, I'm automatically going to go in the other direction, or at least stop and pause for a minute and analyze and assess. Right. And that's the 85-10-5. But yeah, I think that being very strong mentally and being able to outwit, outsmart, outplay, right? In business, in dealing with, the different things that we have to deal with in navigating the circumstances of this world, people are unraveling.
Yes.
I don't know if we're really paying attention.
Right.
People are unraveling, right? And so when you talk about specific things that we need to be focused on or conscientious of now, can you maintain your peace? Can you maintain your personal balance and your consciousness and state of mind in the midst of chaos? Because we've only, if you read Message to the Black Man in America, and if you've read The Fall of America, and you start to see the things that he talked about unfolding now. Yes, sir, exactly. And so we're seeing our loved ones and our family members unraveling. Can you maintain your spiritual and mental sovereignty while there's chaos around you? So this is like, presupposing or setting ourselves up to thrive in the midst of chaos. Not survive, but thrive in the midst of chaos, right? So I'll stop there because, I can go on and on. But yeah, that's my short answer to a complex question.
No. I mean, so Tisha, go ahead. I see you formulating your question.
No, that was heavy, and there was a lot to unpack, and it was so timely. I thank you for that answer. It is so timely and so relevant to what's going on, because I don't know, you can just feel it. You can feel everything unraveling, and people are on edge. And you have to, like you said, you have to be able to center and ground yourself too, so that you don't unravel.
Yes.
I like the point that you said when you were speaking to the children. Can you speak a little bit more on the importance of not leaving your children by the wayside, preparing them too? Because I look at a lot of, and the reason I'm saying this is because it seems like with the sometimes with the youth today, we kind of let them go, and we're not as hands-on as our parents were back in the day, if that makes sense, as our village was.
Yeah.
And they're just running amok. We're letting the tablets teach them or what have you. But the times that we're in right now, they need to be able to focus. They need to be able to be disciplined too. They need to be able to take instructions. Can you just speak a little bit on a little bit more on the youth?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And, we're living in a time now where not just the young people, but everybody has short attention spans. Right.
Yes.
So people are expecting knowledge or information in 30 and 60 and 90-second slots. Right. And that's just not the way real life works. Right.
Right.
So, I guess in modern times, depending on who you ask, but to me, that's like, okay, so now having a book in your hand and reading is even more fundamental, right? We talk about having a strong mind. Well, reading is one of the ways that you strengthen the muscle of the brain, right? Our children need active imaginations, right? They need to remove themselves in their minds from things of this world and just be able to tap into that pure, uninhibited imagination, right? So that they can start to create a world beyond just the world that we're looking at right now. That's where, imagination is sort of like the seeding ground for what actually manifests in the physical reality. And so reading, traveling with your children, allowing them to explore. I remember it might have been Minister Farrakhan that was saying, when our children, when white people's children are around, they let them go explore. Right. Yes. They let them go. They can touch everything. They can jump on everything. And we're like, get over here. Don't move. We're like keeping our children close to the top. And we know why. Right.
Historically, right. Isn't it true that in our slave condition during that period of time, moving, touching, exploring, owning could result in swift and severe physical punishment?
Absolutely.
Whereas the Caucasians bring their children up to be the master, to do things differently. You'll hear them in the restaurants. Listen, we've never tried. This is Cambodian food. What the heck? Let's try it. but in the Black community, we like, I ain't eating that. I don't know nothing about all that, because we have been made to think that proper parenting means the frequent and emphatic use of the word no.
Yes.
We tell our children no all the time.
And as a byproduct, we are raising them in fear. Right?
Yeah.
We're raising our children in fear. And so there's the pre-white representation of exploration, because we are the original explorers, right? And then there's the post-white representation of exploring. And I think because we've gotten so caught up in trying to survive in the system of racism, white supremacy, just trying to survive, especially in America, that we've lost sight of exploring. And I don't mean just around the world. America is a beautiful, beautiful country. There are a lot of things in terms of nature, in terms of architecture, in terms of just getting on the road and just experiencing a different quality of life that we are not taking advantage of, right? And so I think the exploration aspect, allowing your children to explore, is critical. Also, I know, and you probably heard me say this recently, where I realized once my son became a young man, because my mom didn't raise me, my growing up situation with my parents was a little different. So I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning on the job. And once my son became a young man and I started to realize that I was always working on myself his whole entire life. I was always eating to live his whole entire life. For the majority of my son's life, I ate one meal a day. Now, he might get 3 meals a day, but he's only going to see me eat one, right? I've been fasting consistently his whole entire life. I've been physically active his whole life. I'm always reading. I'm always surrounded by books. And so I look up, and my son is starting to represent those same characteristics and to follow in those same footsteps. And so, yes, it was the things that I told him. Yes, it was the things that I instilled in him. All of the summer camps and the African programs and all of the things, it was all of that. But it was also extremely important that he always saw me working on myself. And so for parents, it is extremely important for our daughters and our sons to not only see you talk the talk, but to actually walk the walk. And it's not just about I tell my son he needs to eat healthy, and so I eat healthy. Yeah, that's part of it. But again, it's also that my intention is consistently to be better. My intention is consistently to grow and to be a good representation of what type of woman he eventually will settle down with. And so I really want to impart that because, and this is a spiritual aspect, but just vibrationally and energetically, there is a constant raising of our children based on how we're thinking and how we're feeling. Mothers, we go in the closet and cry when our babies go to sleep, right? We think they don't know, but they do know.
They do.
They know, right? So that means you got to be conscientious about how you're thinking and feeling, not just what you say, but your quality of care for yourself. So yeah, I think that those two, and then the tablets and the computers and all of the things like that, there's a frequency that's being emitted from these devices. And we've got the patents and all of the things to verify that there is a way of controlling and manipulating the mind, not just through the content, but the actual frequency that's being emitted from the phones and the frequency that's being emitted from this computer, right? So, yes, sir.
Let's talk about that for a moment. There's almost universal and ubiquitous use of cell phones, smartphones, computer devices, tablets,
your watches, everything.
They have watches on your wrist,
talking on your watch,
all your bio information and all. Like, tell me what is the up and the downside of that, or how do we protect ourselves from what is inevitably a downside? You just quoted the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a minute ago. One of the other things he said is that when that world makes progress, they make progress, but every step of progress that they make is accompanied by death.
Facts.
They'll create the automobile, but they can't control road crashes. They create the airplane, but every now and then something tragic happens in the air with a helicopter or an airplane. And so with every technological gain, there's also the price to be paid in death. We don't want to do that, but to help us to keep some life in our usage of these devices. I hope that question makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, King. And one of the things that I've really been paying attention to is these AI data centers. And I found out today, because I'm doing some research for a news report I'm doing, that there's already 4,000 AI data centers in America. When you understand the amount of water and natural resources that these servers and these data centers actually require, and then you look at the long haul, right? Because I'm always looking at the long term.
Right.
It's one thing to look at it now, but 10 years from now, the Colorado River here in Colorado is one of the main sources of water for California, Southern California in particular, as well as California and those surrounding states. Well, people in Colorado for like the last 3 years have been urgently sounding the alarm that there is a shortage of water. And if we don't do something about this, this is going to be a very detrimental thing. Now they're putting an AI data center in close proximity to that river, which is going to continue to add strain to, the water available to the people in those areas. So that's something that I'm really paying attention to. I hope people who are immersed in the artificial intelligence world are asking artificial intelligence, how can it run without having to strain the natural resources of our planet, thereby taking away from us as human beings, right? If you're going to ask a question, please ask that question. Did you want to say something?
No, I was amazed. Yeah. I wonder what AI will say. I'm going to ask it today.
Yeah, can we please ask that question?
I'm going to ask it.
Yeah, so and then homelessness, right? Can we ask GPT? How can we? What's a strategic, doable formula that we can actually solve the problem of homelessness? That's what I would think artificial intelligence is for, right? So the cell phones, the computers, the watches, the tablets, they are all emitting a very low electronic frequency. So now, we got the sisters who wear their phones in their bras, increase in breast cancer. Brothers walking around with those cell phones in there's pocket. Now, all of a sudden, there's all these different types of cancers, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, et cetera, right? The putting the phone up next to your ear, they've done extensive studies that shows if you're walking around with your cell phone to your ear, you can see a split in the middle of your brain and see that bandwidth of frequency is affecting your brain and not pulling, but having a very negative impact on the brain. That's a better way for me to say that. But so you have that aspect of the technology. And then how is it possible that we're having a loneliness epidemic now? Where the world is so small, right? Social media, I can communicate with people in London and Africa, all over the world. We're so connected, but people are more lonely than ever, right? And so the answer to the problem is in the question. We need to be physically together again. Physical touch is extremely important to all aspects of being a healthy and a vibrant person. So we need to be amongst each other and have social gatherings and play and fun and all of the things. So the loneliness epidemic. Why are the rates of depression so high? Why are Black men numbers of suicides skyrocketing? Why is anxiety rates beaming off the charts? Because there are aspects of the human being that are not being able to be fulfilled, that cannot be fulfilled with technology. So now we've got the perfectly made, Jamil, I can just hear you making a joke about this right now. The physical, the women the rubbery physical body of a woman, and then you can put AI in her brain, and now she can talk to you and you can have a relationship with her, and she's not real, but she's almost real, right? So it's just like and then you have transhumanism. And so the conversation about sexuality.
What's that? Yeah.
So I was gonna make the leap from transgenderism to transhumanism, right? And so the transgenderism is a big reason why the movement and the fight for the LGBT community is so prevalent. They don't care about LGBTQ. They don't care about anybody. So anytime you see them forcefully pushing a state of consciousness or any particular agenda, it's because they have an agenda. So this concept of transgenderism, where men and women sort of blend, and now there's no real specifications between the genders, and now they're taking stem cell research and started trying to figure out ways to create life without the woman and man coming together, right? And so
they're doing that.
You're doing it. Okay.
Yes, I heard about that.
Starting point. And then the concept of transhumanism. Now we've got AI on the scene. What do you mean when you say transhumanism? Meaning part human, part machine. Now they've already put the technology for that in a lot of people's body, and I won't go there unless you guys want me to go there. But so there's the activation of your cells through certain low electronic frequencies. So we've got these towers. The goal is to have 800,000 5G cell phone towers all across America. And once they do that, there's going to be an entire grid of cell phone towers that are emitting a 60 megahertz, it's either hertz or megahertz frequency, which is a military grade frequency. They have these towers in residential communities. That is so dangerous and detrimental to the mind, to the body, and all of the things. So the technology is good. We're here talking to one another, right? We can text one another. We can, I've got a website. I've got customers from all over the world. I'm able to communicate with people all over the world. I think AI has great qualities in terms of helping you with your business, but I don't need AI to run my life. I need AI to give me help me design a nice, simple flyer, help to make my life easier in terms of fulfilling orders, or in terms of, talking to my clients, in terms of editing videos. I don't need AI to choose a partner for me, or to speak on my behalf and make a song for me, or I don't need you to write my book. Okay. I'm going to write the book. You can give me some bullet points, some resources and things to save me some time, but I'm going to write my book.
There you go. And that's the key. You're actually watching Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil and Sister Tisha. Our guest today, Sister ZaZa Ali, and she is setting off firebombs in the chat, and you can feel free to go ahead and ask your questions. We're nearing the bottom of the hour, but before we go to a break, Sister ZaZa, you talked about the 60 hertz military grade frequency that will be emitted from 800,000 5G cellular towers, according to the plan of the military industrial complex in America. But there's a simpler frequency I'd like to ask about that I've heard you develop, and this is a particular interest to me. You talked about the frequency of life and death in music. You've talked and taught about, I don't know if it's the 440 hertz vibration versus another. If you could just refresh us on that, like what music is safe for us to listen to? And this is a real legitimate question. Don't tune out. Don't tune out. Don't go and put on your Wiz Khalifa records right now. Hold on. Hold on. She's about to answer the question. Sister ZaZa?
Yeah, well, Wiz Khalifa or Megan or Cardi or Lotto or any of these, females that are representing what I call concubine consciousness, where we have weaponized sexuality, where we have glorified prostitution, where we are making everything between men and women transactional. I think it's very unfortunate for our daughters who are growing up in this climate trying to find themselves, and particularly because women are an ecosystem. So we say, well, it's up to their parents, but it was never only up to their parents. We're supposed to have a village. We're supposed to be representing, women are supposed to be representing a certain level of quality of womanhood, which is why I have so much admiration and respect for the MGT. So 440 hertz versus 432 hertz. This is basically back in the 50s or 60s, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute since I've researched this, but I think it's in Black Matters. I think it's in the book you have, Jamil, actually. Yeah. So the bandwidth of frequency that emits either a higher vibrational resonance, and a lot of people talk about classical music and classical music being, a beautiful music to play in the background for inspiration, and it has a high vibrational resonance, which obviously affects your high vibrational resonance. Jazz would definitely be a high vibrational representation of music, mind you, with no words, right? So because a lot of the music that's so toxic to us now is the language that makes it so dangerous. Yes, it's the beats and it's the fine-tuned frequency underneath it. I don't know if you remember, Brother Jamil, one of the famous rock stars came out from one of the major groups and said that they used to be in the basement of the record companies, and they would be doing satanic rituals to the music as they were playing the music, and sort of engrading or emphasizing or fine tuning a devilish type of frequency that's within the music. Now you think about a rapper like Future, right? Who has so many times said, we make music for the strip club. He's been very adamant about that. And so now we have a worldwide rap star, and he's definitely a pop star at this point, who is making music that is emphasizing and elevating a lust and sex-based frequency, right? So he doesn't even have to necessarily have the strippers in the video or to be, showing the physical representation. And again, I just drove past a little 5 or 6 year old girl that was like humping the wall and that was doing some very sexual, and it could be more to that, but it doesn't have to be more to that. This is what our music is embodying. This is what our music is emphasizing. I was sitting at a school one day. I was at a restaurant, but the school was next door. And this sister pulled up and she was playing a female rapper that was talking about sucking my this and eating my that. And it was so vulgar. It was so vulgar. And we were in front of a preschool and she didn't turn it down. Right. And then she picked up her daughter or whoever the little girl was and put her in the car and they drove off listening to this music. So, when we look at a bandwidth of, let's say an emotional scale, up here we'd have happy, we'd have abundance, we have gratitude, we have loving, nurturing energy. And then you get to the middle ground. And then at the bottom, you have hate, envy, disrespect, all of the things. These are different representations of frequency, right? And they all have a numeric value. So the 440 and the 432 hertz are only representatives of a numeric value, right? That resonate with a certain type of energy. So how much of our music now is radiating the love frequency, right? We grew up with Anita Baker. We grew up with music that was speaking life and love, and and now the culture is so promiscuous and so sexually activated because they know this is the time for women, Black women in particular, to reclaim our throne, to step back on our square, and to usher in a divine new world order, right? Where men and women and the divine God and the divine goddess rule in unity. But you got to rule yourself first.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
We're going to the bottom of the hour. Teacher, if you don't mind bringing Brother Williams' question up about music. He wants to know if his music choices are safe. If you see Brother William, he just wants to ask you that question, Sister Zaza.
I would give that the thumbs up, yes.
Okay. So the Manhattans and Teddy Pendergrass, you safe as long as you don't get to shouting like Teddy, okay? Come in, woman. Cut that out, okay? Not too much of that. But we'll be back after the bottom of the hour with more from our guest, our sister, our friend, Sister ZaZa Ali. Stay right where you are. Nothing but the truth. We'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Assalamualaikum, family.
Assalamualaikum.
What are we saying? What are we doing? Woo! Assalamualaikum, family. Assalamualaikum, family.
Assalamualaikum.
We want to thank you for taking the time to tune into Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil
and Sister Tisha. We thank you for every Thursday night joining us for appointment viewing. 8 p.m. Not 8 a.m.
Yeah, I'm going to come in on the p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m. Thursday nights by YouTube, by Facebook, by Instagram, by all the other means by which we can be seen. But we thank you because without you, as a matter of fact, here the Manhattans, there's no me without you.
We always do that. Assalamualaikum.
There's no me.
You didn't say assalamualaikum. You didn't say assalamualaikum.
Oh, assalamualaikum. Well, Sister Tisha, I think you've been good enough today. I'm going to deliver the whole Manhattan's concert tonight. After the show is over.
Don't do it.
Don't take
it on a high frequency.
Don't do it.
Okay. We're back with our guest, Sister ZaZa Ali. You'll be seeing more of the actual visual representations of her products, her books. Stay right here. You'll see the contact information to get in touch with Sister ZaZa. That last comment back up.
The binarial beats. Great point.
Yeah. Now tell us what this means, because Sister Marjorie, she knows Marjorie Mishu. Okay, she knows what's happening. So the question says 432 hertz frequency is a go-to for me. Binaural beats, jazz aficionado, and can get with classical. Indeed, much of the music is designed to degrade our God consciousness.
And that's a great point, Queen. And this is just another jewel for any parents or anyone who might have a child or someone dealing with ADHD or autism. Binaural beats is a great way to balance out that. There is a term for it that escapes me right now. Maybe someone in the chat knows it. But to basically balance out the neurological system in the brain. And so anyone who has, children or someone who deals with AD and autism, look into binaural beats. Because I even had a client one time who had a son who was autistic, who would play binaural beats at night. And instead of him having some of his episodes, it would calm him down and allow him to go to sleep at night at peace. So definitely look into that.
Binaural beats.
Okay.
And so it's calming for everyone.
Absolutely.
We can drift off to sleep with this binaural beats.
It's a way of entraining the brain. That's what it's called, brain entrainment. And so, a lot of us are always on the go. We're all over the place. We're never actually 100% present. And so what binaural beats is it'll beam a sound or a frequency into the right brain, into the right ear, into the left ear. And so it's creating a cohesion and a balance and entrainment within the brain. So that, like one of the things I said before was discipline. And the other thing I wrote down was like 100% focus. A lot of us are never 100% focused, especially women. We'll be 20% here, 40% there, 50% here. We can be all over the place, which means you're nowhere in particular. And so binaural beats is one of those ways to entrain the brain so that you can actually sit and be still and be at peace and be in the moment, which is where all the power is.
That's beautiful. Because I was going to ask you on this part of the segment too, to speak on the importance of learning again how to center ourselves, especially as women, how to calm ourselves. Because like you said, we're on the go all the time. Our brains sometimes never turn off. I got to do this. At least I know mine. I got to do this. I got to do that. I didn't do this. I still need to do that. And then you can never really rest. We kind of just, at the end of the day, fall out from exhaustion.
Yes.
But at one time we used to meditate or, even just slow yourself down so you can even reflect on your day. And with the way things are moving today, we seem to have forgotten that. Can you speak on the importance of that?
Absolutely. And this is something that I've really, through my observation of women, but then also when working with women, we have a lot of sisters who are not emotionally stable, right? To where one little thing triggers them or sets them off. And now, the inability to control those emotions, the inability to not be reckless with their mouth and how they talk or how they, the aggressiveness, so to speak, in the family household, but then out in the world as well. So for me, I think number one is you have to have time where you can just sit with yourself. Yes. If you are in a very chaotic, where you can't control your thoughts and your emotions, or you have real serious anger issues, emotional control issues, start sitting in the dark at night. No stimulation, no candles, no TV, no lights, no phone, no nothing. Just sit in the dark and be still with yourself. That's a perfect representation of what we call being naked, not physically naked. Sure. But when you sit with yourself and there's nothing else to think about and nothing else to be stimulated by, you start to see how negative you are towards yourself. You start to see how you have negative expectations or projections against other people. You start to see, why maybe people around you react to you in a certain type of way, because now there's no outside stimulation. You have to deal with you. A lot of us aren't dealing with ourselves. And then we've got boyfriends or husbands or family members or social media or chaos in the world. We have all of these things to keep our minds occupied, but being present and being in the now is where all of the magic happens. That's why the imagination is so powerful. Because you can just spend that time and hone in on something that you want to manifest. And then, of course, where two or more are gathered in my name, right? So if you can get two people on the same accord, visualizing and focusing in on something in particular that you want to manifest, but you can't doubt it.
Yeah.
You can't have fear, it's not going to come. You can't be checking to see why is it taking so long, checking the mailbox every day. Like, you know, that desperation, that frequency gets in the way, going back to the frequency scale, right? So this is why being disciplined is important. This is why having things where you're 100% focused is important. It's in training the mind, right? And so the imagination aspect is critical. Vision boards are critical, right? And we're still talking about how to be centered within yourself. A lot of us are exhausted because we don't have any real things to look forward to.
Right. Oh, wow.
Getting up and going to work every day is not something to look forward to.
No.
Paying off your mortgage is not something to look forward to. It'll be a wonderful day, right? But the next 5 years that you got that is going to take, or, you know, like, we have to have beautiful, fantastic, exciting, and inspiring, enthusiastic things that we can, Jamil?
No, I'm bearing witness because, and I don't want to, this is not an interruption, it's kind of an interjection.
No,
if
go ahead.
If I could say this, you talked in your books in the past, and I want to revisit this before we show the books on the screen for that are available now. But you talked about how the systems of this evil old world actually conspire to kill imagination.
Yes.
They want imagination and hope and dreams and all that. They want that stuff stopped and keeping you constantly revolving in a circular pattern of reacting to them and giving their world what it seeks, to the total detriment of your own selves.
Yes, sir.
Could you develop that for just a moment? Because you just touched on it.
Absolutely. That's spot on. And a perfect representation of that, I know you've heard me say this, Hollywood is Satan's vision board. So for the last 20, 30 years, we can look at things that are unfolding right now. Iran's been the boogeyman in American theater and in American movies and in American television for how long now? Iran, okay?
Almost 50 years.
So the you know, all of the different Contagion and all of these different movies that are sort of talking about these cataclysmic times where, you know, this mass virus or disease or the aliens are going to come and invade. There's always a boogeyman, right? And so by them implanting in your subconscious mind, and then you become numb to it and you become neutral to it and you think, oh, that'll never happen. So when it actually does happen, what are you doing? You're following the program in the movie. All of the people got scared. All of the people ran for their lives. All of the people went chaotic. And guess what happened in 2020? The exact same thing. So implanting something in your mind and then sitting back and allowing the masses, right? What I call NPCs, or the 85%, allowing them, because I always say, you know, a lot of it is illusion. Hollywood is a game of illusions. But when you believe it, it becomes real. That's the trick to the imagination. When you believe it, it becomes real. Yes, sir.
So wouldn't it work that if we believe good things and if we believe things that are progressive and wholesome and healthy and strong, then we bring them into existence because we're vibrating at that frequency? Is that correct?
Yes. 100%. And the placebo and the nocebo are perfect examples of that. A placebo is a situation where a doctor, and these have been proven in plenty of medical journals where a doctor will give a person a sugar pill, but they'll tell them that they've given them the cure to a certain disease. In Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, the name escapes me, but he gives several examples of people who thought they went into the doctor and had surgery, and they would make an incision in the part of the body and then just sew it back up. But they tell the person, yeah, we removed, you know, this bone or this cartilage or this issue, and now you're fine. They didn't do anything but just make an incision and sew it back up. These people went home and thought they had the cure, thought they took the pill that was the cure, thought they had the surgery, and the body 100% healed on its own through the power of the mind.
Wow.
Same thing with the nocebo. If you tell a person that they only have a certain amount of time to live and they can look healthy and vibrant, but maybe you picked up cancer or something on the scan, the minute that a doctor tells that person you got 6 months to live, unless they have a strong mind and a strong willpower to change that narrative, their body starts to disintegrate. So this is why the fasting element plus how you think and how you feel is so critical. Because when you're in your mind like, I'm a failure, I'm never going to be anything, I hate myself, my life is terrible, you're also giving instructions to your cells.
Wow.
It's very powerful.
Wow.
people want to know in the chat how they can get your books.
Yes.
I know, Tisha, I keep talking while you're trying to show the books and to give the information, but please, I want to defer to the world's best and most beautiful co-host. Go right ahead, Tisha.
I'm going to put up the information for your books. And if you can just touch on it a little bit, because we didn't get to really go into that so people know you have books. But if I can find them, hold on, friends.
Yeah, while we're doing that, this is a great program because we like to share information here on Nothing But the Truth that can help you live a better life and be a stronger and better person and be connected in modern times with the great history and legacy of ancient people. And speaking of ancient people, on your screen right now, what are we looking at here, Sister ZaZa?
This is my most recent book, my best to date. It is a 265-page full-color history textbook that is focusing on Queen Liliuokalani in Hawaii's last monarchy, the Moors in Spain, the Kandakis of Ethiopia and Kush, Pharaoh Hatshepsut in the 18th dynasty, and Africans in Asia. It is a labor of love based on 20 years of history, research, and pouring everything that I have in it. Is beautiful. It's 450 images. It's well-researched, documented information. And like I said, when I put this book out, we're taking it all back. And so this is one of my contributions to us doing that.
Yes, indeed. This now, what we're seeing now.
That's the workbook version. So I initially made the books one book, but it was like 380 pages. It was huge. So I split it into two. And so this particularly for parents of high school age students, there is spelling, there's grammar, there's crossword puzzles, word search puzzles, there are color pages. It is the complement to the textbook.
Yes. Okay. That's the two of them together.
You see the addresses and the web pages at the bottom of the screen on the crawler, but you will have to be second in line because Tisha and I are going to get the first sets of the books.
Okay.
You all could be number 2, but you ain't going to be number 1. What are we looking at on the screen now, Sister ZaZa?
This is Keys to Womanhood. And pardon me, I thought I sent you guys a better picture than this, but I was on my phone. So this is Keys to Womanhood. This was my most recent workbook. It's all of the things that I wish another woman had told me. And like I said, my mother didn't raise me. So I had different women in my family raising me. And I was, trying to find my way. Mother Tainetta Muhammad, Ava Muhammad, these sisters, Dr. Frances Cresswell Singh, Pharaoh Hatshepsut, to be honest, these were women that embodied an intellectualism, a scientific sort of state of mind. You said I was a scholar, because I've studied great female scholars, and it's not a gender thing, but I love to see women representing intellectualism and high sciences, so to speak, and so the Supreme Wisdom will be a great representation of that. And I was like, I was devouring, the concept of splitting atoms and cracking atoms and things like that. So this is Black Matters, Volume 1 and 2. Volume 1, eugenics, the Jim Jones Jews, crack cocaine, white lines in the sky, organ trafficking. I'm being careful about my language so you guys don't.
We understand.
Black plagues of dysfunction, Black girl loss, Black hair, feminism, the worship of sports culture, Holly Weird, a people of sport and play. Of course, we know where that comes from. So the Black man, woman, and more. So to date, I have self-published 7 books. Ancient People is my 7th book. And I'm also working on a self-publishing course right now to help anyone that wants to either self-publish a book or use that as a sort of a business venture to create, to be able to help other people publish books. I'm working on that as well.
Okay. So basically you just lazy. Basically,
you don't have nothing to do but sit on her tablet.
Sitting around,
Praise
to Allah. Now, as our program, I know the clock. I wish I could control the clock. As Brother William can tell you, the OJs did do the song, Listen to the Clock on the Wall. So we're going to do that. But as we move forward in tonight's discussion, I think we're all chock full. Let's visit the chat and get some more information from the folks who are watching and have questions. If you have a question or comment, please ask it now because we don't want to miss your question. Here's Sister Deanna from Baltimore says, teach, sister, I'm loving it. Any suggestions on how we can pull our young adult children away from this satanic music? Only Allah knows. I have tried. When parents are talking, your young when young
adult child.
Parents, okay. When parents,
are talking to your young adult child. I don't know. I guess she's speaking on similar to what you were saying about the little girls.
Yeah.
Like it's hard because I can't even listen to the music today. I just can't follow it. It just does. It makes me ugh. But the youth love it.
Yeah.
How do we pull them from that if we can?
So, for me, and I've done this before, you can do it in your neighborhood. You can do it in your community. If you have access to young people at schools, sit down with them and break the lyrics down. Go sit down and break down a Megan Thee Stallion song line by line.
Or the Lady Red and the other one, Cardi. These people are saying some terrible things. One lady got a record. She talking about there's 3 initials to it, and it's terrible. And
it's so like, I'm so glad I didn't grow up during this time, because there was just certain things women did not do. Like there's certain things you just don't do. Like you're creating lip glosses named after sexually transmitted diseases. Who does that?
Right.
I'm talking about Sexy Red, the one that you just referenced. Right. Who I think, they just plucked her out of the Negro fields and just gave her a microphone and told her, do your best, do what thou wilt, in the name of Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, especially depending on the age range, I would get her and them and a group of their friends together and put some nice little snacks, some popcorn and some seeded fruits. And I would watch the videos. And I would talk about, what is this woman actually saying? And how do you think a boy should relate to this? How do you think a man would relate to this? Is this respectable? It's because we can't run from it. We can't hide it. They have access to it everywhere they go. So I used to talk to my son, because he was a big NBA YoungBoy fan. And at a certain point, he was listening to Chief Keef. And so I wasn't trying to get him to not listen to it. Well, at least not. I'm not talking about when we were together, but I was actually like, let's listen to what it is that he actually saying. I need you to understand the entertainment element of this versus the real world element of this. And with social media, those 2 worlds are really blurring now. And so I would really sit down, like comb through the lyrics, print out the lyrics to one of the songs and sit them down and actually talk about it. And like, what would this attract to a girl who dresses like this, or who talks like this, or who acts like this, and start to develop their critical thinking, because they got to go out in the world and make decisions beyond just us, right? We have to prepare them for the realities of the world. I think that's a great way to go about that.
Yes. And also we need to teach them their self-worth.
Yes.
And teach them that that's not the kind of attention that you're looking for that makes you, the best representative of who you are. That is not the attention you want. And they think that it is. So we have to.
And there's a difference between attention and respect.
Come on.
Woo!
Respect has to be earned.
That's bars. That's bars. Say it again.
There's a difference between attention and respect. Respect has to be earned. Yes. You can walk in a room with a clown face on and get attention. It's not difficult to get attention. You as a woman, regardless of your look, your body type, if you walk in a room half naked, you're gonna get attention, right? But respect is a different type of thing. Wow. And so I always wanted respect. That's why I was like, I'm looking for women that embody and that model a certain type of respect. So yeah.
Right. This is nothing but the truth with Brother Jamil and Sister Tisha, our guest tonight. And I'm going to respond to all the texts and the messages I'm getting. We're going to ask her the question that you all want us to ask her. Give us just a moment. We'll make the request of her, but I think you all know what the request is. But we are quickly running. She's like, no, what request? No, we don't need you to sing any songs now. It's not a musical request, but we are going to. Well, I'll let it out the back. I'll go ahead and ask her. We need you for a part 2 sooner rather than later.
For sure.
Our family brother Tony from St. Louis is on. He said, beautiful teaching. Our brother Minister James from Tampa, he says that the acquisition of knowledge without the development of character is dangerous to people, and you are bringing all that to the fore. There's so many people on. Sister Katina from Dallas, Texas, line with us, and so many people. Sister Nikita from Fort Worth, Texas. She says music is so powerful that we have to be very intentional about what we're listening to. This is great dialogue, and I'm going to work more in this area because we all know how catchy songs can be. And before we know it, we're singing the words. Yes. And a very important comment, Sister Nikita is the alto. She's a beautiful singer in her own right. And so she is very respectful of the music. I guess we're going to take out the discussion tonight on music and what we can do. Sister ZaZa, tell us what we can do to respond to Sister.
Our closing remarks.
So that was a great point that she made. And there's the beat aspect, there's the frequency aspect, and then there's the voice, right? And the words. And so the musicians aside, all of us and how we are using our voices, right? Mm-hmm. As rappers or as singers or as commentators or as podcasters or as, you know, the voice, right? And how you speak to yourself, and you can speak life into a person. You know, like we always say, a woman can speak to the king in a man, or she can speak to the NIGGA, right? Yes. And so we need to speak life into one another again. You know, Brother Jamil, we talked about family earlier, and you know, a lot of us have never been properly loved. A lot of us have never been properly loved in our families, in relationships, in our friendships. And so I think that's a real strong focal point for us to identify that, right? If you're one of those people, like, I know my family dynamic, like, yeah, I wasn't properly loved for sure. So that made the mountain of sort of loving myself and finding myself a little bit higher than maybe a lot of people have to climb. But we're alchemists, right? And so the more darkness that you have to transmute, the higher you go in terms of the potential of energy or consciousness or bandwidth or energetic resonance, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're all alchemizing the circumstances. This is why what's so profound about our people and why our placement in the scriptures feels so right and exact to me, because nobody has had to alchemize more darkness. Not to compare and contrast, but these are just facts. Yes. Nobody has had to alchemize more darkness to overcome more oppression, more abuse, more disrespect on a global level than our people here, particularly in America. So certain ones among us, those of us who don't get snagged on the pain, those of us who don't get stuck on the fact that our mothers didn't give us enough lap time, or our fathers wasn't in the household, right? Those of us who don't get stuck on the white man is holding me back and got his foot on my neck, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to the power of imagination, going back to levels and states of consciousness and awareness, going back to self-love, going back to fasting, going back to connecting with nature, putting your feet in the grass and letting the sun penetrate your eyes for sun gazing, right? Going back to loving animals, loving plant life, loving all of these beautiful, you know, the movie Avatar, they make it seem like this wonderful space with all of these fascinating creatures and everything so colorful and wonderful. Like, we already have that. It's already happening here. There's sheeps and goats and cats and dogs and birds and bees and all these different colorful, beautiful representations of the Most High. So it's all a miracle. It's all a miracle. Yes, yes. So I want to be a good steward, you know? I want to be a good representation for our sisters. I want to change the narrative of this Black male-female dynamic and how we're always at odds with each other. We're going
to make sure we archive this show, sis.
Yes, hold on.
You see, when she gone.
She gone
somewhere. Yes.
We're going to the credits. Thank you all. We'll see you next Thursday.
Archive the show.
Willing and the creek don't rise. And the sister you're looking at the bottom of the screen, she'll be back with us sooner rather than later. Assalamu alaikum. Nothing.
Thank you. See you in the chat, guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace and love.